All right, so today I want to go over how to use your fork of someone else's project as a dependency in your project. Let's get it. All right, first let's define the term fork. I used it earlier, but I'm not sure if I ever defined it before. So let's look at the definition. And when I was referring to fork, I was referring to a fork on GitHub, but I believe it applies to other version control systems, like the terminology that is. Anyway, fork a repo. A fork is a copy of a repository. Forking a repository allows you to freely experiment with changes without affecting the original project. Understood. So going back to the scenario of today, right? This is the project I wanted to use. And let me go to the crates.io page so you can see it first. So in my last video I mentioned OMDB, and conveniently there's a Rust crate for it. This is it. OMDB API for Rust. Search movies, TV shows, and games using the Open Movie Database. And they have a few examples here, right? Here is their repo. For reasons that I'll disclose later, I had to fork the repo and then use my own repo in my project, or my fork of their repo in my project. If you want to fork a repo, here's a convenient button, and you just click this and go through the motions, which led me to create this, which is my name plus the fork repo's name. And it says forked from, so you have the origin story, right? So in my project, and I don't think I have that open. Let me open that real quick. What I ended up doing in order to use this forked repo is this. I put in Git, I put in the path to my repo, and then I put in the hash of the commit that I want this project to use of my project, of my fork. All right, so let's get into the reasoning. Why did I have to go about doing this? And the reason is the version that is on GitHub, like the one here, or here, the 3.1 doesn't work for me. And I can demonstrate that. So let me open my terminal. So here's my terminal. Let me vim cargo tomo file. I commented out my forked version of the repo, and I'm using the version that is mentioned in the crates.io page. Cargo run. And now I'm running the project, right? So if I go to the health endpoint still returns something. However, if I go to the name endpoint that uses this service, let's search for frozen. I get an error. What does that error look like? Well, let's come here. Panicked at not currently running on a Tokyo 0.2x runtime thread. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that the version of Tokyo that I'm running and the version of Tokyo that they want me to run aren't the same. Why is that the case? So then I did some digging. If we go to the OMDB-RS cargo.tomo file, we'll see their dependencies. And their dependencies are request and 30. This is just a dev dependency, so I think I could ignore it. Anyway, with a little research, I went to request to see what is the current version of request. That is this page, and it says 11.3. Understood, so request is a little old. Not that old, but a point version. So then I went to the request GitHub page with the goal of trying to figure out the dependencies of requests for the version used by the OMDB repo. How do I go about doing that? Well, I know what version of request they're using. So I went here, went to tags, found the version. They're using 10, so it can't go to 11, so I'm going to go with 10.10. And then I went to the cargo.toml file. So this is going to show me the dependencies of requests for this version. And if you do a quick search for Tokyo, here we go. Request version 10x is using Tokyo version 0.2. In my project, I'm using Tokyo version 1. As such, we have two different runtimes. So it seems like the issue is that the version of request in the current OMDB is a little lower than I want it to be. How do you fix that? Well, you fork it, you upgrade the dependencies of requests, and then you use that instead. So when I was on the route to doing this, somebody actually already beat me to it. And let me go to pull request. And this is this person. So shout out to Freaky because you helped me out. Here are their file changes where they upgraded the version of requests, and they even upgraded the dev dependency, which is nice and I think needed as well. Oh, and then if you go to Freaky's fork, which is right here, you can see that they have master and then they have the feature branch, which is the one they made the PR for. Given that they already made the changes, I didn't feel the need to make the changes myself. Instead, I just pushed Freaky's changes to my fork, which is right here. And I use that. So let's go back to the project so I can show it running. Control C. Them. And where's that tab? Oh, here it is. So earlier I ran name frozen. If I run it this time, I actually get a response. And it says the IMDb score for frozen is 7.4. And going to IMDb real quick, you can see that it is actually 7.4. So the service is working as expected. And all I really needed to do was upgrade the dependency. All right, so we've reached the end of the video. I hope that was useful. I hope the next time you run into having dependencies issues with your package, you know how to deal with it. If you like the video, hit like, subscribe, yada, yada, yada. Outside of that, until next time, peace.